In this episode, I chatted with world-renowned Olympic weightlifting coach Dave Spitz, founder and CEO of California Strength, a premier athletic performance facility located in San Ramon, California. We chatted about how technology and social media has allowed them to remotely train thousands of athletes from around the world and build a tribe amongst the weightlifting community. What's unique about their performance facility is that Dave has an in-house physical therapist at California Strength. And we chatted about how they've integrated rehab and prehab principles to keep their athletes performing at a high level all the time. Dave also shared some of his insights on Olympic weightlifting, programming for elite level athletes, and how he's raising his kids to have a solid all-around athletic base. This was a great one for anyone interested in weightlifting, performance physical therapy, and even raising kids.
The Prehab audio experience will teach you how to take control of your health through knowledge by optimizing performance, promoting longevity, and keeping your movement system in tune. Welcome to your host, the Prehab Guys.
So I have the pleasure of having Dave Spitz on the Prehab audio experience today. Dave is the owner and CEO of California Strength, which is a performance athletic facility located in Northern California. He is the CEO and founder of California Strength, as well as one of the few USA weightlifting senior international coaches in the country, and is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I got to know Dave. I got to know the California Strength community. We've been following him online through social media probably years now, but I've been seeing all the programs they've been putting out. I myself have been wanting to learn how to snatch. So I just went through their Lift Right program over the last 2 months, basically learned to snatch. I've been posting a lot of the videos. Does not anywhere look beautiful by any means, but the fact that I can get a bar overhead now is, for me, it was a pretty amazing thing when I didn't feel comfortable at all. So I wanted to get you on here, talk more about your programs, what you guys are doing on the online landscape, because I love how you guys are just educating people online as well. And with that, welcome to the show, Dave.
Wow, that is a kick-ass introduction. Thank you very much for having me, and fired up to get into the weeds with all this Olympic weightlifting and online programming, and figure out what other topics we can go down the rabbit hole into.
Yeah, I guess let's start with this. How did you get started with Cal Strength as a facility, as a performance gym? And then how did you start that mission or that thought of branching out into online? Because something we always tell people, we can help so many more people online than we can in person. I love treating patients in the clinic. I'm pretty blessed. I only see 14 patients a day. That's like the max, which is kind of unheard of in the PT world, and especially in the insurance model. But, I'm grateful to help those 14 people. But online, I have a chance to help someone in, Africa, or, another 100 people over here, which I just don't have that ability in person. So I guess, how did that journey start for you in Cal Strength, from in person to online?
Yeah, I mean, technology has definitely been a game changer for us, just being able to expand outside the four walls of our gym, and essentially democratize information and make sure that people are capable of accessing this information that we have here in San Ramon, California. It's just wild that somehow we've become a center of excellence that's recognized around the world. I mean, I coached Danish team members at the World Championships here in Thailand, alongside my own lifters. So it's really humbling and cool just to be able to harness technology and give people an opportunity to learn about, I think, what is one of the most foundational skills in movement.
Yeah, no, the barbell lifts they just teach so many things. And I guess what was your barbell journey like? I actually listened to a podcast of you. I forget who you were a guest on, but you went through your career path from collegiate, and then all of a sudden through the finance world, and then into give us that quick summary of how you got into the strength world.
Yeah, happy to. So was at USC doing my undergrad. I was a track and field athlete, and I always had Olympic aspirations. That was something that was like something that I caught in like the late 80s when I was just a young kid, watching the Olympics in Seoul, Korea. I was just like mesmerized by these athletes from all these countries, being able to represent themselves and their country. at this level that only ever happened every 4 years. I was really captivated by that whole experience. And so I wanted to be a part of it. And so coming out of high school, I ditched football and went the track and field route. And USC is awesome for a lot of things, and some of them good, some of them not so good in terms of being an athlete. You got a lot of distractions.
You got a lot of distractions.
LA. And, being from a small town here in Northern California, I definitely was chasing some shiny pennies.
Just shiny pennies?
Yeah, it's like in Los Angeles, it's like every night there's a once in a lifetime experience to go and participate in. So I have the worst FOMO of anybody. So I definitely got a little sidetracked. And so ultimately, when I graduated in 2000, the Olympics were not even a possibility. And so I basically said, you know what, like, that was a cool dream, but I'm going to go to work. And I started a small company with a couple other Trojans that were mentors of mine. We actually were in the energy sector for a while doing redevelopment projects. So I started out as an oil and gas guy, and then parlayed that into a finance career. And ultimately, that took me to New York and did all kinds of cool stuff on Wall Street, and then moved back to San Francisco. And 2004, the games were in Athens, Greece, and something just kind of like just shook me to the core. Like, man, I miss sports. What am I doing? Like, I have all this financial success, but I don't really have the fulfillment that I was thinking would come with it. And so, I was always a good weightlifter. It's one of the things we used primarily to train for track and field was the snatch and the clean and jerk alongside the squatting and pulling movements. But, I was always a strong athlete. And so I decided I would like to go pick up weightlifting. And so I looked up a coach and started a different journey, and it was consuming. And that took me to a place where, I was very much aware that we were behind the rest of the world in terms of our participation and our understanding of how to really do the sport at a high level. So I did the only logical thing that one could do. I took a trip to Bulgaria and basically sought out the architect of the Bulgarian system, Ivan Abadjiev, who essentially was, one of the first real coaches to kind of turn strength and conditioning models on their head and move away from that classical Soviet periodization model and really just hyper specialize in these core movements at high intensities. And so I brought him back to the United States, and I sequestered myself in a garage with a bunch of other weightlifters from Bulgaria. So I wrote visas for all these guys, and I wrapped a nonprofit around it. And then I started recruiting Americans, and I trained for about a year and a half in this system, and it was absolutely brutal, and it yielded terrible results. And so, then I was like, okay, so we can't do this sport here in the United States, and the Bulgarian system evidently doesn't work outside of Bulgaria. Success is situational. What the heck else can we do? So I sent those guys packing, and I opened a gym to kind of help me provide an on-ramp for athletes to train and for me to kind of problem solve what was the best strategy. And so we basically tore, the programming and the philosophy down to the studs and just started over and essentially developed kind of a system that I thought would be capable of succeeding here in the United States. And so far, so good. We're 10 years plus into this, and we have an athlete training here that is in all likelihood going to be one of the 4 representing the United States at the Olympics coming up here in 2020 in Tokyo. He actually has a really good chance to win a medal, which would be the first non-boycotted medal since 1976. Wow. So we have Pan Am records, we have American records, we have all kinds of accolades and great athletes training here. And so I feel like we've really developed something that's not only sustainable, but that prioritizes the athlete's health and well-being, and is good at being exported onto the internet.
Yeah.
Because we can do this stuff, and we can teach people how to do this stuff, A, without performance enhancing drugs. B, we can teach people at any age. And so that's one of the really cool things that the landscape here in the United States has facilitated is we have guys like you who are what we call late stage adopters. So that, you're not learning to lift when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. You're learning to lift in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. And CrossFit has done an admirable job of bringing participation to the sport as well. But our model really helps athletes at any level adopt the sport and learn these movements in a way that is not intimidating, and ultimately will get you to a point where you can use them to train, whether it's for fitness or for sports or to participate in the sport itself. And that's something that we're particularly proud of.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So I'm 29 now. Never did any of the Olympic lifts. Always just squat, dead, your traditional, I guess you can say your weightlifting, your powerlifting lifts. Not that I was a powerlifter by any means. But that's what what I was accustomed to through high school, through college, and then getting under the barbell. It was something I wanted to learn. I definitely wanted to learn to snatch. And I loved how on your program, it broke it down in many ways when we think of either a top down or a bottom up approach, depending on where the barbell, like how you're going to work. And then in your guys' Lift Right program, which we can talk a little bit more about, you did these things called non-ballistic progressions, which I think helped me a lot. I would say I was just messing with stuff for maybe like a month or two beforehand, kind of on my own. And then it was just sloppy. I don't even know where I was messing up. But things really clean. It felt more clean after going through those non-ballistic progressions. So I guess kind of speaking of that, what are some of these principles that you think are very important in your programs that have allowed you guys to just have so much success training athletes like Wes, and athletes, not even just weightlifting athletes, there's a lot of football athletes that you guys train, a lot of other sports that you guys help people as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a question that has a lot of answers, because like you said, from the Lift Right program to our club team and our elite team training, all the way up to kind of the hyper customized, peak performance models that we're using for, our NFL scouting combine athletes and guys like Wes. But starting off with this Lift Right program, one of the earliest principles of neuroscience as it relates to movement is, the faster a movement is, the less precise it becomes. And so being able to slow movement down and really focus on 4 pillars that we think are important. So those are positions, those are timing, tempo, and then tension. So those four primary domains of learning as it relates to the Olympic lifts are much better taught in a non-ballistic, just in a slowed down variation of these movements. So we start by simplifying the movements from a high hang position, so a partial range movement in a non-ballistic variation, and then we go from that high hang to just a little lower and a little lower. So we continue to add complexity, and then we start to add speed. So being able to give you a roadmap for success, like I said, that is not intimidating, where you have really clear-cut things that you're trying to focus on and accomplish in every single exercise variation, is the secret sauce. And then we just add complexity to the progressions over time until you arrive at a passable snatch and clean and jerk.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me right now. It's passable. So then I guess translating that to online, how long have you been pushing and creating like online programming for athletes, not even, in Northern California where you guys are, but, in other parts of the world? How long have you, been dabbling in that?
Yeah, so when we started the gym, I immediately kind of picked up a camera and just started putting things up on YouTube. And so, we were very fortunate in the sense that, the rise in popularity in CrossFit was was basically, just completely mirrored our utilization of technology and putting some of what we were doing in our gym in San Ramon out into the ether. And so we amassed a reasonable following, and it was always a topic of conversation in our comments threads is, when are you guys going to offer your program? And so I met with the founder of Train Heroic, Ben Crookston. He actually attended a seminar that I ran in Chicago, and he kind of convinced me that his technology was suitable for providing this subscription-based service. And so this was about 7 years ago. So we were really early to the game with respect to the online training. And I was committed to putting it at a price point that was accessible. So being able to deliver this to anybody who wanted it, as opposed to, hundreds of dollars a month is what people were trying to charge. We were down as low as $10 a month for some of our base programs at the time. And so being able to democratize information and really get it into people's hands, and then be able to kind of to take advantage of mining a lot of that data and mining a lot of the feedback for what was good and what was bad throughout the program, helped us to kind of perfect it over time. And so I feel like we're at a point now where, what you get for the money is a tremendous value. And, we're very proud of the product that we can deliver.
Yeah, and I guess you said you were one of the early adopters on the online programming. When you started doing this maybe 7 years ago, did you have any pushback from the community, from other S&C coaches, trainers, people like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is this? Hands up in the air? Or was it pretty well received?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Anytime you become a disruptor in a space, you're gonna get pushback, and coaches, especially Olympic weightlifting coaches, can't possibly distill this level of information into an online package that's going to help or benefit anybody. And so, that was kind of the old guard, thinking that technology wouldn't deliver as robust as an experience as what it ultimately has been able to. And really, like, when you're doing a lot of this stuff, the video demonstration, the coaching points of performance, the video analysis, that type of stuff is cool. But the idea that you are on a journey with, hundreds or even thousands of other people that are struggling alongside you to accomplish the same thing, and you get this sense of camaraderie and community, I think that's incredibly powerful. And it basically sparks a lot of conversations, and we try and get as social as we can with it. So
I didn't realize that. So some of your other, because I think the program I did it seemed like it was it's like a singular program, but it sounds like your other ones, like, you're going through it with like a cohort of people. So everyone's struggling at the same time. Everyone's hitting PRs at the same time, or whatever it may be. It sounds like.
Yeah, so that's been so the Lift Right program is kind of a standalone program that takes you through a specific number of weeks to lead you to basically being able to snatch, clean, and jerk a testable 1 rep max, and then from there we can then use that 1RM to base percentages off of and kind of put you on a more formal program. And so we have several variations, that train, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 9 sessions a week, whatever you're interested in. We have a variation that is probably suitable for you. And yeah, so with those programs, you have access to this cool feed feature where, we get very social with it, and we're on there interacting with the teams, and the teams are interacting, with each other. And so it becomes a real cool sense of community. And, anytime you have that, I mean, it's powerful. I love the idea that, people like yourself are interested in creating an opportunity that humbles you. The idea that, you can learn from those experiences in ways that you can't learn from others. Like I picked up the guitar a couple of years ago, having zero musical background. and learning about music theory and learning how to play, just basic songs was just so humbling and so cool.
Yeah.
So whether it's, golf or weightlifting, these types of skills, that are seemingly, unattainable to acquire now. I use the internet to basically teach myself guitar, just like
That's
you
awesome.
use the internet to teach yourself weightlifting.
That's cool. And then what we were talking about, some of the pros and cons of online programming. One of the things that you mentioned is the connectivity, and we're able to, even if someone's for me, for example, in Los Angeles, not up in Northern California with you guys, you feel connected because technology has allowed that, through the app that you guys are using. I guess, are there any other pros or things that you have found through technology or through online programming that in-person can't? And then we'll even talk maybe vice versa, some of the pitfalls that you found with online programming in comparison to in-person coaching.
Well, I mean, the pros are definitely just the breadth of people and the data mining that we can uncover, so when everybody is logging their results on the system, and we in the team setting, we're not just logging, what you performed in terms of makes or misses at specific intensities. We're also getting qualitative data on, before the workout, how you felt. So there's a stress, test on the beginning of each session. So, how you slept, what your mood was, what your soreness, all this good stuff. And those tests, they don't mean much until you actually compile them, across thousands of users. You start to see trends develop. And so the power of being able to mine that data definitely helps us guide our programming decisions. And we back test these models and we're able to uncover some pretty profound things through just evaluating the data. The other thing is, like you said, the connectivity, being able to watch, an Olympian or a future Olympian kind of do a workout that seems familiar, and he trusts the same person that writes your workout with his overall success or her overall success. I mean, I think that in itself is powerful. And so just being able to connect to elite athletes, even if you're not lifting the same weight, your relationship with the unforgiving is as meaningful as his. And so, just having that connection, I just think is so powerful.
Yeah. I think we were talking a little bit before we hopped on the call. So you guys have a pretty big team there. You have a lot of different coaches, but you also said you have a physical therapist on staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess tell me a little bit about how you've integrated, physical therapy within your gym. Cause that's like a very new model as well. I think for a lot of PTs that may be listening, working within gyms, I'd say over the last couple of years, it's a new avenue per se.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been such an interesting relationship that exists between sports performance S&C people and physical therapists. It's like I don't know how there wasn't more dialogue sooner. It's remarkable to me. And I watched my good friend Kelly Starrett kind of be one of the first online to start to put PT information out there, and he got a lot of pushback early on. I mean, he was called everything from a charlatan to a quack because people just were not comfortable empowering individuals with the information that Kelly was trying to provide. And so I think that technology has done a lot to kind of peel back the curtains and show people that, physical therapists have a breadth and depth of information that normal people don't, but there's a lot of things that you can do to empower individuals to learn about their body and to learn about what works for them, without having to be just paralyzed by fear of hurting yourself or doing the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
And so in my facility, we we definitely have we have walls put up so that our recovery and regeneration area that houses our PT is separate from our performance area, so that we mentally delineate, okay, here's where you go to push the envelope and perform at a high level. Here's where you go to recover and regenerate and heal if necessary. But always there's a dotted line connection between the two. And our physical therapists will write not just customized warm up and potentiation strategies for our athletes, but also custom accessory work that is going to help them overcome whatever deficiencies they have with respect to strength or movement. And so we really lean heavily on our PT to make sure that we're offering a level of customization that is unique.
Yeah, it sounds like now, she's developed, instead of it just being a reactionary thing, where most PT has been reactionary. Now I'm hurt and doing something. She's even helping, like you said, write some of that custom programming, potentiation exercises maybe beforehand to help keep people on the performance side of the gym, which is awesome. That's just so cool that you've been able to integrate the two of them.
That's what I love so much about your guys' account. I mean, I started following you guys early on when you guys first jumped on the scene, because I saw what an awesome void to take people from like the classical PT model where you achieve a level of range of motion and strength. There was this gap between that and being able to return to the field at full strength. So like you guys were offering exercises that just seemed to be like a great avenue for helping people in that kind of fill that void, but then also on the potentiation side to keep people from ever getting hurt. I mean, I just thought that was such a cool application of your skill.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. And kind of what you said earlier, like sometimes it seems like PTs is black blocks because the anatomy or the physiology can get so, what's the word, complex, I'll say. But a lot of times it's, people are fearful of what they don't know. And if we can distill some of that information, hey, it's okay if your shoulder has, some of this comfort, that's normal. But here's some things that maybe you can do about it. Or here's some things that you can do even when your shoulder is feeling good to keep you so you can continue to snatch, when you're at CrossFit or whatever. That's really been our goal. Cause like you said, you've been democratizing information through your online programs. And I think that's just the key for not just health and wellness, but for everything. Education is wealth, education is knowledge. The more we can educate people, the more we don't have to see them, and we don't have to be reactionary. For all things, for finances, for health, for everything. It's all education. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then we also make it a point, anybody who is on our online program, the drop-ins into the gym become free. So
that's cool.
Idea that, you no longer have to pay these expensive, gym memberships or drop-in fees. If you're following our program and you're in the area, come by and use the gym for free and get some free coaching. And it allows us to help more people and to basically make the entire thing so much less expensive across multiple domains.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. Drop-in fees, I know for certain gyms, it can just get crazy. It's almost like a class pass. It's almost like a class pass, but even more expensive than a class pass. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm just in town for a day. Just need to get a lift in somewhere. That's all I was looking for. So I guess speaking more on the PT, I think I may have saw a video. Her name is Kelly, right?
Yeah, Kelly Wild.
Did she just have surgery herself? And she was just did she just have like a labral repair, or what? Maybe we don't have to talk about it on here, her information. But I was just like, whoa, she just had some sort of shoulder surgery, and she's snatching a ton of weight and competing. Yep. That was amazing.
Yeah, and that's a testament to her ability to kind of problem solve and our ability to kind of help just supplement the performance side. So she's 6 months out of full slap tear, labral reconstruction, bicep tendons. So everything, the cuff muscles were in good shape, but the labrum was totally trashed. And I myself went through the same surgery, so I was very sympathetic to this. And so the idea that we could get back in 6 months to 90%. So what I typically say for my labrum people, it's 6 months to 90%, and then probably another 6 months to get to 100%. And you get to feel all sorts of weirdness, and you get to live in that world of extreme discomfort, walking that fine line between pain and extreme discomfort through the process. But she's come back, and she just took a bronze medal at the American Open final just 6 months out of surgery. So we're particularly proud of the work she's done, and she's going to be a rising star, not just in our sport, but I think in the PT community.
That's awesome. Kudos to her and you guys. Speaking of injuries, so you said you had a slap injury. What are some of the most common injuries you've had, some of your lifters working through, or maybe that they've had in the past? Things that you've seen as a coach.
I think the hardest part about weightlifting is essentially, you're only going to improve once you get to a certain point, via those neuromuscular adaptations that you can achieve. So once your prerequisite strength levels hit a certain point, right? Once you can squat, 150% of what your best 1RM clean needs to be in competition, you no longer have to be, focusing on the back squat. You just have to maintain. And so the idea of having to basically lift in a scenario where it's all about the quality of, or the quantity of quality lifts you can put together in a given week. And so for us, that has to be above 85% to really benefit the athlete from a neuromuscular standpoint. And so, when you're lifting at those intensities as frequently as we have to, my guys are training between 9 and 12 sessions a week. So double and triple day sessions sometimes. Your wrists take a beating, your ankles take a beating, your knees, and the shoulders. So just being able to make sure that we have, proper modalities to be able to always just stay ahead of whatever injury could potentially occur. And then we have good nervous system regeneration tools, good lymphatic flush opportunities. And then they just do a ton of accessory work. So my belief is, just like what you guys offer, it's, if you have a balanced approach to accessories, where you're focusing, on posterior and anterior, and symmetry. So, a lot of unilateral type activities, and you're focusing on isometric and eccentric, and you just have a breadth of accessories that's balanced and basically continues to make sure that the athlete themselves stays within some framework of structural balance that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of what we do.
I love it. The variability, it's something that we preach a lot. It's something I preach to my patients a lot. I think variability in movement is just so important for anyone, not just athletes, but just for the everyday person, exposing people to new stimulus. It doesn't have to be a crazy stimulus, like we're saying, just accessory work, but exposing them to these new things, different planes. It's just so important for building up someone's capacity to be able to then withstand quote unquote injury down the line in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when you expose them to variability, you oftentimes will see issues that you couldn't see in normal patterns. Like, if I could watch Wes Kitts snatch and clean and jerk all day long and not be able to see some of the things that I could if I just have him do, some multi-directional lunging with a kettlebell, or some single leg RDLs. Like there's things that athletes can do to compensate, especially great athletes or great
Especially, yeah.
Where you assign a little bit of variability, and all of a sudden they give up the ghost, so to speak. You start to see, like, oh shoot, that glute is totally sleepy. We need to figure something else out.
Yeah. Athletes and humans, we are the best compensators. Like, we will take whatever route's easiest to accomplish said goal.
Yeah.
Unless we break it down, it's hard to see those things until the system is broken down, and then you got to rebuild from the ground up, and it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
So,
but definitely so a healthy amount of variability in the exercise selection, especially with respect to the accessories, because we're so specific with our snatch and clean and jerk.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there any accessories in particular that I guess like your go-tos that you love, or maybe certain impairments or things that you want to see or work on per se?
So like just working to end range, I love a lot of like single legs, rear foot elevated single leg split squats, especially like cross core variations of that. I really like anything like unilateral posterior chain. So everything from like death march to like single leg RDLs. Those are always going to be staples of our program. I like a lot of like bilateral isometric type work on the back extensions, so a lot of isometrics in that realm. We do a ton of core stabilization, anti-rotation. A lot of work goes into our core programming. So that type of stuff, and then a lot of like scapular functionality and just scapular strength, being able to make sure that we've got good functionality back there.
Nice. On the programs, I guess it's probably going to depend on what athlete you're working with or what program we're referring to, but I guess maybe for your higher end athletes, you said they're training 9 times a week. Is that what you had mentioned?
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
It depends upon where they are. So, in terms of their annual plan for like if we're talking about an elite weightlifter, for example, they have every week of their calendar year is built out, in sometimes, years in advance, at least 1 year in advance. So because we can only prioritize 2 anchor dates in a calendar year for them. So, the way we structure these models so that they go through, a phase of heavier volume and general strength application. So we're looking at, trying to bring about, bigger squats and pulls, and then moving into more of like what we would refer to as a transmutation phase, where we're trying to take some of that general strength and build specific strength on top of it. And then moving into a realization phase where everything is, geared towards, bringing about the maximum performance possible in the actual exercises we do in competition. So really high intensity work. So all of that kind of like gets baked into the program. And then, so the accessories that we're doing, the number of sessions that we're doing, all of that is accounted for within the context of each one of these phases. Those phases are broken down into 4-week mesocycles. So they're either, 1 to 2 mesocycles per phase. So the idea behind, loading an organism, which is all programming is at the end of the day, effectively, and to produce, the best possible result. That's something we spend a lot of time looking at. So we get very granular with breaking down just about every aspect of, what type of stress we're applying, even to like the psychological stress that we're applying. It's so fun, and it's so fun to see an athlete at the end of the what we call a quad plan. When you do a 4-year Olympic preparation plan, this now the tail end of this quad plan, where we're somewhere around 8 months out, it's so hyper specific and hyper specialized, because we've done all of this groundwork to build up proper movement and proper prerequisite strength, so that all we're focused on now on the way in is just like I said, that quantity of quality attempts. So.
And then the end of the quad plan that you mentioned, that's where you're at now, right? Like going into the 2020.
Yep.
How many athletes do you have? I guess what's that process look like, qualifying, and how many do you have going to Tokyo, or on that path, I should say, going to Tokyo?
Yeah, so we have 2 that have competed at the world well, 3 that have competed at the World Championships and at their either European Championships or Pan Am Championships. So there's 3 athletes that are in the mix. One of them is essentially a lock. we only get to send, each country gets to send a maximum of 4 men and 4 women in the sport. So, and that's across 10 weight classes on each side. So you can be the very best in your weight class
and still not go,
not even come close to going. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. But
I didn't realize that.
There's 15 spots. And so it's a very small group of athletes that will ever get to participate in the Olympic Games in our sport. And so, to have 3 that have a really good shot, and to have, 1 that's basically a lock for our country that could be in medal position is so cool. And being on the precipice of not participating in the Olympics myself, being able to coach an athlete to get there is more exciting than I can possibly even relay on a podcast.
Yeah, no, one of my favorite quotes when I was a student from one of our professors was "Teach one, treat many." Teaching someone I get just so much joy out of teaching. I absolutely love teaching. Right now we teach BFR classes, and I love having students with me. I just get so much more joy, like you're saying, than doing it myself.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get down and get some of that BFR information, because I think that's some next level stuff that people need to be prioritizing right now.
Are you guys implementing any BFR right now, or your PT Kelly or anyone?
We are just we're just looking into getting her certified. So would love your feedback on where to go and what to do.
Yeah, we'll definitely chat about it off the call. So let's do this. Let's wrap it up a little bit. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I guess the 2 questions we always ask anyone on our show. We'll start with this. What does the word prehab mean to you?
The word prehab means to me a dedication to implementation of movements and exercises that are going to keep you healthy, from symmetry to structural balance. I'm a huge believer in just having a base of athleticism. And so for me, prehab, is a part of that base that's required for you. So it's as important as your strength and your power and your speed, all that good stuff. Having an adherence to structural balance and symmetry and coordination, proprioception. I mean, it should be a cornerstone of every strength and conditioning program.
Love it. Yeah. And I think I'm kind of veering off right now. I'm starting to work with more kids, and I think that's where it starts, like getting the youth to understand how important it is, these principles, they don't have to fully understand the principles, but understanding how important a well-rounded program is, and just being strong or just being fast, just being coordinated at a young age. It makes it so much easier than now. I see people that may be a little bit older, but they don't have that youth background of just participating in any sports. And it's just, there's so much more layers that you have to uncover. Someone doesn't have that movement background. So
we rally against hyper specialization or early specialization all the time. I mean, kids that are playing baseball or soccer, 11 months out of the year, they're missing the boat right now. And the best athletes that I have, from my all pro football players to even my best Olympic weightlifters, they all have a background in diverse sports.
Yeah. I'm hoping more parents, I feel like I don't even know if there's anyone on the other side of the narrative right now. But I'm hoping parents are getting the message, because it definitely is a problem that we have right now with these kids.
You and I need to work together to build. I've been working on. I have 3 children. I have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old, and so they have an athletic life plan that I've kind of structured.
Nice.
Take advantage of sensitivity periods for development across these different domains, and
nice.
So we've been hard at work executing this plan. They're a little bit disadvantaged because their dad is not a genetic stretch, but trying to get them to have this framework, this base of just athleticism that of course includes the things that we're talking about, is just mission critical for me, irrespective of whether they ever play a sport.
Yeah.
At a high level, like they're going to be healthy people.
Exactly.
To be able to maintain a quality of life that's high as long as they're healthy. So
I'm curious. I'm nowhere near being a parent, but what are some of the things that I guess you are doing to, give them just a background athletic base, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So it all starts at a young age in the pool. So they all started at 9 months old in the pool, and as soon as they could join swim team, they did. So typically that was 4 years old for at least the first two, and my 4-year-old will start swim team this year. I think that there's something that I've just anecdotally seen, the idea that you can have an objective truth, have a time that is glued to their performance, allows you to kind of articulate that strategy of, hey, either we win or we learn, right? So we didn't win, so what did we learn today? Did you eat right? Did you sleep enough? What were you thinking about? Did you practice hard this week? There's all these different things that you can kind of start to impart. At 12 months old, we enrolled them all. 18 months, enrolled them all in gymnastics. So starting at kinder gym,
Nice.
and into level 1, 2, 3. So just having a mastery of body control and starting to develop relative strength. At 24 months, they all started playing soccer. They started in like the Little Kickers program.
Little Kickers, yeah, running around chasing the ball.
Yeah. So my theory is, keeping it bilaterally symmetrical, so they're not allowed to participate in, asymmetrical sports up until they get that base of athleticism, at least at like 8 or 9, something like that. Then they can start to maybe pick up a baseball bat, but they'll probably be, taking as many cuts right-handed as they take left, if I allow it to happen. And
That's
then
cool. I have not thought of that like that. I love that. Absolutely. Like keeping bilateral first, just developing that base, and then moving to unilateral sports.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many kids, from lacrosse to baseball, just absolutely, screw themselves up by the time they get to junior or senior year in high school, just because the asymmetries that develop are so hard to unwind. So yeah, everything bilaterally symmetrical, and then we start to experiment like with different bilaterally symmetrical sports, so soccer to basketball. So a focus on coordination, speed, balance, proprioception, all that good stuff.
I'm curious, are you trying to make your kids all ambidextrous? Giving them the utensils both sides, and make sure they, Yes,
I do. And then they all started weightlifting. They start weightlifting at about 6. So
Okay.
little dowels and 5 kilo bars, and they're basically doing your Lift Right program. Sometimes they end up on the Instagram account. But all my kids snatch, clean and jerk, squat, pull-ups, planks, rope climbs, push-ups, that kind of thing. I get them in here at least once a week. That's awesome. Just kind of introduce them to these movements, and they love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially being in that environment too, seeing other people do it. Now they have kind of other role models besides yourself to follow. Like, this is cool, and it's so important for kids.
Yeah, and making sure that they're not intimidated. And then we also are introducing some combat sports, so like a little jiu-jitsu and some striking. So like just basic coordination stuff with regard to how to use your body. Again, like gymnastics, it's just a proprioception play. So
it sounds like you have your next program in mind.
I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. So
well, that was awesome.
Anybody listening that wants to help out with it, let me
know. Last question I want to ask, I guess, any parting advice to novice lifters and or advanced lifters, just anyone that's involved in the sport of Olympic weightlifting? Maybe they hit a plateau, maybe they're down mentally. I guess any advice for the Olympic weightlifting community?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the idea that it's not a linear sport. It's a very cyclical sport in terms of your progress, and so I have this performance paradigm that I drew up where, as you start off in the sport, it's like your PRs are going to come very often, and they're not going to come with a whole lot of work. But as you continue to stay in the sport, your PRs are going to come fewer and far between, and the lows are going to get lower. So your highs are higher, your lows are lower, and the time it takes to get back into, back to the top it takes longer. So be patient, be accountable, make sure that you're engaged in deliberate practice, and realize that, you have a relationship with the unforgiving, like rock climbing or combat sports or even mathematics. Like there's a very special relationship that you have with, the idea that you have to be in control of your emotions, and you have to be able to understand that you participate in a sport where, as you get better, it gets harder. And when you finally kind of grasp that your reward for improving is you get to lift bigger weights, which, are harder to lift and require more courage and more skill. It's a really special thing, and keep at it, because nothing will teach you more about yourself than continuing to try and battle against the gravity and the barbell.
Yeah, and the weight. Awesome, Dave. Really, really appreciate your time. That was awesome. Where can people listening reach out to you, follow you, media, things like that? CaliforniaStrength.com is always a good resource on the website. We try and update regularly. On Instagram, Cal_strength, and then on YouTube, California Strength. We try and make ourselves pretty accessible online. Just get on that Google machine and type in Cal Strength, California Strength. You'll still find us. Awesome. So we'll add that into the show notes, everyone, and then some of the programs we're talking about there we'll add in as well. Dave, with that, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate everything you guys do, and truly, I can't wait to take the next step in our relationship and figure out what else we can do to collaborate. Awesome. I really hope you guys liked that one. I had a blast speaking with Dave. There was so much I learned in there, and so much I've just learned myself over the last 4 or 5 months trying to learn to snatch. By all means, like I said, I just have a snatch that I'm able to perform at 1 RM. Let's all say it like that. I can get the barbell from the ground to overhead. It doesn't look pretty, but I'm proud of myself for doing it, and it's something I want to challenge everyone listening to this podcast to do is, like Dave said, humble yourself, get outside your comfort zone and do something that you don't know. Learning is so fun. I've just had a blast learning a new movement skill, something that I've never even fathomed doing before. It doesn't have to be something that's related to movement. It could be like what Dave said, learning to play guitar. But just get out there and challenge yourself, learn something new. Let that be your goal for this upcoming year. Again, please rate, review, and subscribe if you like this podcast. We've really enjoyed doing it, and we hope you guys have as well. With that, Michael's signing off.